Got this question a couple times this week on the topic of how do I be? Some members in our community are realizing that they just need to be, but they're kind of asking me, well, how do I do that? What are the steps to being? They're watching videos and listening to different teachers and reading books, and they're realizing that, everyone's kind of pointing to this being. How do I be? And the mind is always looking for a process or a method or a technique or steps in order to be. And that's the problem. That's what creates a lot of confusion around how to be. Because being is so natural, and that which is so natural must be effortless. Being is effortless. Doing requires effort. And as long as we are identified with the doing and lost in the doing, and we have not discovered our being, then there's great effort. There cannot be any relaxation or rest. One can only rest in our being. So there's no process, there's no steps, there's no method, there's no technique. It's actually when you let go of all of that that you are being. When you let go of all of the effort, you are effortless. When you let go of everything that's unnatural, you are natural. So the mind struggles to understand this because the mind itself is a doing. The mind is this activity of thoughts and feelings and sense perceptions all kind of strung together in what appears as some linear activity. But it can't do anything to be. It's when that activity of doing is actually coming to a rest that then there's the realization of this dimension of being. That which for many of us is hidden or not discovered. And I like to use the analogy of the ocean, but a cross-section of the ocean. And on the surface of the ocean, there's all the activity. There's the waves, there's the movement, there's the doing. But simultaneously, at the depths of the ocean, there's the being. There's the stillness, there's the silence. There's no activity. So in a way, we all have this being dimension to us, and it's deep within. But we haven't gone deep within ourselves to discover it. So you could say it's not yet realized, or we're disconnected from it. And the more we are connected to this deeper dimension of ourself, the more we are familiar with our being, then something shifts. That we are no longer we're no longer lost in the activity at the surface level, because we are grounded in our being. We're no longer mixed up in all of the movement of life and all of the appearances, like the waves appearing in the ocean, because we are deeply connected to our being. And just like the cross section of the ocean, what we see is actually all of this activity on the surface, the waves moving, the waves appearing, the waves emerging. All of that activity is actually arising out of the depths of the ocean. All of that activity on the surface is actually arising out of the stillness at the depths of the ocean. So the more you connect to your being, then you start experiencing this dynamism, this dynamics of life that, just like in the cross section, yes, the ocean is very active on the surface, but also the ocean is very inactive at the deepest depths of the ocean. So it's not this or that, it's actually this and that. So it's very dynamic, which then allows there to be what I call effortless effort. It looks like there's a lot of doing happening, but it's balanced by the being. It looks like there's a lot of effort, but it's really effortless. So how can we experience this being dimension? And like I said, it's more about relaxing and letting go than it is trying to work hard and try and like focus on something and trying to achieve something. Because all effort of achieving something is a doing. All focusing is going to require a contraction, where it's actually the opposite. It's more of a relaxation. You're relaxing into your being. And with this relaxation, there's a letting go. Just like this fist, it takes effort to make a fist. But as soon as I relax the hand, you can see how the fist is opening up. And you can see how the tension is being released. And you can see how the hand is no longer closed, but it's actually opening. All because this hand is actually just relaxing. Now, how much effort does it take you to relax? No effort at all. It doesn't take any effort to relax. It takes effort to contract. So as much as there's no process, there's no technique, there's no method, that's true. But you can just see in your life, are you actually relaxed? And just relax. And the more you just relax, the more you're just relaxing and you're letting go. You're naturally opening up. There's this sense of expansion. Just like there's the expansion of this hand as it relaxes. And it's just really returning to its natural state. That the hand is not always in a fist. When the fist is let go, when the hand is relaxed, then it just simply returns. And that's really about finding this dimension of being. It's about just relaxing, letting go, allowing, accepting. And you realize that there's actually no resistance. When there's resistance to life, you are the resistance. You are the fist. But when the hand just simply relaxes, naturally starts opening, comes back to its natural state, then it realizes, oh, I'm actually the hand. There was never a fist. I've always been the hand. That would be self-realization. So notice the times in your life when you feel very relaxed, very restful, at peace, a sense of freedom, a sense of happiness, a love for whatever's arising in the moment. Because that's a good indicator that you are simply just being. Notice how there's no person with problems and a past and a future and a story when you're experiencing this happiness, this love, this peace, this freedom, this rest, this relaxation. Notice how when you're experiencing this happiness, there's no resistance to what is. There's just the allowance. There's the acceptance. There's a full embrace for what is. Showing you that when there's the resistance, then there's really this doing. You're resisting. But when you're allowing life to be as it is, there's not a sense of doing. It's effortless to allow life to be as it is. But as soon as we resist life, then there's a doing. So just simply notice that in your life, that when you're just allowing, when you're accepting, when you're embracing, notice how you're just being. And there's no sense of a separate person that's doing anything. And there's no past, there's no future, there's no problems. There's just simply what is. There's just the awareness of what is. And because there's no resistance, there's no suffering. And because you're just allowing everything to be as it is, you're simply just being. If you allow life to be, you are just being. It's that simple. So then you get kind of familiar with this. And it's almost like this starts growing, starts spreading into different areas in life. Perhaps you were able to experience this being while walking the dog or going for a walk in nature or gardening or knitting. So you're able to simply be in those situations, circumstances, experiences of life. And what I'm saying is just notice how there's no resistance in that moment. Notice how there's no resistance in that experience. Notice how you're relaxed. You're just allowing everything to be. There's zero resistance. You're just being. Obviously, there's a doing happening. Knitting, gardening, washing the car, walking the dog. It appears like there's a doing happening. But when you really look at that experience, there's no doer. There's no sense of you doing anything. It's just happening because you're allowing it to happen. You're just being. And the result of just being is you're actually just experiencing your true nature. You're resting in your true nature as your true nature. So you're experiencing the happiness, the love, the peace, the freedom that you are. You're able to simply just relax as yourself, be yourself, which is the most natural, which is the easiest thing to do because you're not actually doing it. You can't do anything to be yourself. You can only be yourself. So then you start to kind of get familiar with that taste of being in those situations. And it's almost like it starts spreading from just going from being in the garden to then now you're being with the dishes, and you're being with the kids, and you're being with your partner. You're just being. It just feels like it starts spreading into different areas of your life as you become more familiar with it. And like I said, is then there's this dynamics that is experienced, that there's, the doing of the dishes, the playing with the kids, the putting the kids to bed, the watching a movie, walking the dog. There's all that doing, but there's really no doer. There's all that effort, but there's really this effortlessness. And your being starts permeating the experience. So your true nature, that happiness, that love, that peace, that freedom, is then permeating the experience, just like it was for maybe the experience of gardening or walking in the woods, where it feels like there's no time. It feels like you're profoundly at peace. It feels like you got lost in nature. It's not you that got lost. It's the fact that who you think you are was not present. And you'll notice that when who you think you are is not present, or I could say when who you think you are is absent, then there's the presence of happiness and love and peace and freedom and fullness and wholeness and completeness. But then as soon as who you think you are is present, there's a whole lot of problems and a story and baggage and suffering and all of that. So you just start to see this experientially in your experience of life. And that's why I always point to, what is that thing that you're doing in daily life where it feels like you just get lost in the moment? You just get lost in it. And it feels like you're just flowing with life. It feels like time stands still. It feels like you're so much like yourself. It feels like you're deeply relaxed. It feels like you're recharging, resting. What's that thing that you're doing? Because when you really look at that experience, you see that you're not really doing anything. You're just being. And by getting familiar with that quality, by getting familiar with that activity and how you seem to just kind of slip into that being, it's like you kind of trace your way back to it more and more. And it's like you get familiar with what's actually happening, that there's this letting go of a plan, this letting go of the past, this relaxing, this just effortless being yourself. So as much as you want a 1, 2, 3 step process, there's not really a process. But what I'm pointing to is you're actually already being. Your being is primary to anything that you consider doing. It's just about realizing that it's there. But all the activity of doing seems to be a distraction or veiling our being. So what I'm pointing to is there's areas in your life where you could say that veil is thinner, you could say, where you're getting that glimpse of being. You're getting a taste of your true nature already in certain areas of life. So I'm saying, look at that experience in life where you feel this happiness and this love, this peace, this freedom, this feeling of time standing still, getting lost, being in the zone, being in the flow state. Look at that experience and just see what's really happening. See if who you think you are as a person is actually there. See if there's problems while gardening. See if there's any story of past trauma and any goals or ambitions in that moment. And what you'll find is there's none of that. There's only happiness. There's only love. There's only peace. There's only freedom. There's only your true nature. There's only the awareness of being. And that's ultimately what you are. So just have a look at that. And you start getting familiar with that. And like I said, it's almost like you trace your way back to it easier. You start to see through contrast how certain situations where it feels like you're doing so much and there's so much effort and there's so much resistance and struggle and so much problems and so much future thinking or past thinking, you start getting this contrast, which then helps you see that you're maybe not being in these situations, but you're doing, that there's this strong identification. There's a lot of resistance, a lot of doing, a lot of effort being made. And then it's almost like you kind of remember how to get back to being, which is relaxing, letting go, opening up. And then it's like coming back to it, coming back to that which is always here, now, our being. So hopefully this is helpful. I'll see you in the next one.